Kevin's day started the way most days did. He hummed a quiet tune as he swept the long hallway of the grand apartment building. Dust motes danced in the morning sunbeams that peeked through the tall windows. Kevin was a single dad, and his job as a custodian here was important. It helped him take care of his sweet daughter, Lily. He worked part-time, which meant he could pick her up from school every day. Most of the people who lived in the building were very busy. They zoomed in and out, their minds filled with work or appointments. They often walked right past Kevin, barely seeing him. He was like part of the furniture, just another piece of the building. He'd nod hello, but their eyes would usually be looking straight ahead, already thinking about their next task. Kevin understood. Everyone had their own world, and his just happened to be tidying up theirs. He pushed his cleaning cart, its wheels making a soft rumble. On top of the cart sat a small, worn. He pushed his cleaning cart, its wheels making a soft rumble. On top of the cart sat a small, worn drawing of a smiling sun. Lily had made it for him last week. It was one of his favorite things. Even though residents didn't always see him, Lily always did. She saw everything. Later that afternoon, after his shift, Kevin walked to Lily's school. Her bright pink backpack was easy to spot in the sea of children. "Daddy," she squealed, running to give him a big hug. Kevin scooped her up, twirling her around. Her laughter was the sweetest sound he knew. "How was your day, sunshine?" he asked, tickling her side. On their walk home, Lily chattered about her new friend, a squirrel she saw on the playground, and the silly song her teacher taught them. Kevin listened to every word, his heart full. He loved these moments. This was what made all the hard work worth it. His part-time job meant he could be there for her, really be there. He could help with homework, cook their favorite spaghetti, and read bedtime stories. Balancing work and fatherhood wasn't always easy. Some days he was tired, his back ached from scrubbing floors, and his hands were rough from cleaning. But one look at Lily's happy face, and all that tiredness melted away. She was his reason, his joy, his whole world. They might not have a lot of fancy things, but they had each other, and that felt like the richest treasure of all. They walked hand in hand, a small, happy pair, heading towards their cozy little apartment, ready for their evening adventures. The next morning, a different kind of buzz filled the apartment building. It wasn't the usual hurried footsteps or quiet greetings. Instead, there was a grumbling sound, then silence. A small, red, out-of-order sign hung on the elevator door. The elevator, usually a smooth and silent helper, had decided to take a break. Residents stood around, looking annoyed. Some sighed loudly, others mumbled about being late. For people living on the higher floors, this was a big problem. Kevin heard the complaints as he swept near the lobby. He knew it meant more work for him, calling the repair company and putting up extra signs. But for many, it just meant a long, tiring walk up many stairs. Just then the lobby door swung open, and in walked Mrs. Gable. She was a kind, older lady who lived on the 5th floor. Today, though, she looked a little stressed. Her arms were loaded with heavy grocery bags, so many that she could barely see over them. A loaf of bread poked out of one bag, and a carton of milk peeked from another. She usually took the elevator straight up, but today that wasn't an option. She looked at the out-of-order sign, then down at her many bags, and a worried look crossed her face. Taking the stairs with all that weight seemed like a mountain to climb. Kevin watched her, his broom resting against the wall. He knew exactly what she was thinking. Kevin didn't think twice. He walked over to Mrs. Gable, a kind smile on his face. "Looks like a tough climb today, Mrs. Gable," he said gently. "Let me help you with those." Mrs. Gable looked up, surprised. She hadn't even noticed him standing there. "Oh, Kevin. That's so kind of you, but they're terribly heavy. I wouldn't want to bother you." "No bother at all," Kevin insisted, already reaching for the heaviest bags. He took 2 big, bulging bags in each hand, his strong arms easily managing the weight. "You just take your time, and I'll lead the way." Lily, who had just arrived with Kevin, stood quietly by his side. She looked up at her dad with admiration. Kevin always helped people, it was just who he was. Mrs. Gable, feeling a little embarrassed but very grateful, picked up her remaining lighter bags. Step by step, Kevin climbed the stairs. One floor, then two, then three. He didn't rush, letting Mrs. Gable keep her own pace. He could hear her breathing a little heavily behind him, but he just kept moving steadily. He thought about Lily and how he carried her up to bed when she fell asleep on the couch. These bags were heavy but not nearly as precious as his little girl. When they reached the fifth floor, Mrs. Gable sighed with relief. "Oh, thank goodness, my arms feel like jelly." Kevin placed the bags carefully by her door. "Thank you, Kevin, you're a lifesaver. I don't know what I would have done." He just smiled, a little out of breath but happy to have helped. "Anytime, Mrs. Gable, that's what I'm here for." Lily, who had made it up the stairs right behind her dad, gave Mrs. Gable a small wave. Mrs. Gable watched Kevin and Lily turn to leave, a thoughtful look on her face. She usually just saw Kevin in his uniform, pushing his cart, a quiet part of the building's background. She might offer a quick hello, but that was it. Today was different. He had been so kind, so strong, and so patient. He didn't ask for anything, just helped because it was the right thing to do, but it wasn't just his strength that caught her eye. It was the way he looked at Lily. When Lily had given her that little wave, Kevin had gently ruffled her hair, a warm smile on his face. He had called her sunshine earlier, and the love in his voice was clear as day. Mrs. Gable saw the easy way Lily held his hand, how comfortable and happy she was by her father's side. She realized then that she had been like all the other residents, seeing Kevin as just the custodian. She hadn't seen Kevin, the kind man, the loving father. He wasn't just a uniform. He was a person with a big heart, someone who cared deeply for his daughter and was ready to help others without a second thought. A feeling of warmth spread through Mrs. Gable. She felt a little bad for not noticing before, but also a little excited. It was like she had just opened her eyes to something wonderful that had been there all along. She decided right then that she would make an effort to truly see Kevin from now on. He deserved more than just a quick nod. He deserved to be seen and appreciated. True to her word, Mrs. Gable began to change her ways. The very next day, as Kevin was wiping down the mailboxes, she walked by. Instead of a quick nod, she stopped. "Good morning, Kevin," she said with a warm smile. "The elevator's fixed, thankfully. But I still appreciate your help yesterday more than words can say." Kevin looked up, a little surprised but pleased. "Good morning, Mrs. Gable. Glad it's working again." "Are you busy this afternoon?" she asked. "I was thinking of baking some cookies and wanted to know if Lily might like some." Kevin's smile widened. "That's very thoughtful of you. I'm sure she'd love that." From that day on, things were different. When Mrs. Gable saw Kevin, she didn't just walk past, she would stop for a moment. "How are you today, Kevin?" Or "Lovely weather we're having, isn't it?" Sometimes she'd ask about Lily, remembering the little girl's bright smile. Kevin found himself looking forward to these small chats. It was nice to be seen, to be spoken to as more than just the custodian. He learned that Mrs. Gable loved gardening and had once been a school teacher. She learned that Kevin loved to draw with Lily and that his favorite color was blue. These little talks were like small, warm sunshine moments in his day. They were short, just a minute or two, but they meant a lot. They were simple, friendly exchanges that made the big apartment building feel a little bit smaller, a little bit cozier. Kevin started to feel a gentle shift, a quiet sense of belonging that he hadn't felt in a long time, thanks to Mrs. Gable's newfound friendliness. As days turned into weeks, those short, friendly chats between Kevin and Mrs. Gable began to grow. They started talking about more than just the weather or the building's happenings. One afternoon, Mrs. Gable found Kevin fixing a loose hinge on a door. "You're very handy, Kevin," she remarked. "My late husband was always fixing things around the house. I miss that." Kevin paused, screwdriver in hand. "It's nice to feel useful," he replied, a soft smile on his face. "Lily often helps me with little projects. She hands me tools, though sometimes they're the wrong ones." He chuckled, and Mrs. Gable laughed with him. She then shared a story about her husband trying to fix a leaky faucet and ending up soaking the whole kitchen. Kevin told her about a time Lily tried to help him paint by getting paint all over her nose. These weren't just polite words, they were real stories, shared with warmth and understanding. Another time, Mrs. Gable saw Kevin sketching in a small notebook during his break. "Are you an artist, Kevin?" she asked gently. He showed her a drawing of Lily riding a bicycle, her pigtails flying. "Just for Lily," he said, a little shyly. Mrs. Gable looked at the drawing, her eyes twinkling. "It's beautiful, Kevin, you have a real talent." She then talked about her own love for art, how she used to visit museums when she was younger. Their talks became like gentle streams, flowing a little deeper each time. They talked about dreams, about the past, and about what made them happy. Kevin found himself opening up, sharing bits of his life and his hopes for Lily's future. Mrs. Gable listened with genuine interest, offering kind words and advice. It was a friendship slowly blooming, rooted in shared moments and true connection. Kevin started to realize that Mrs. Gable saw him not just as a worker, but as a person with thoughts, feelings, and a rich inner world. One sunny afternoon, as Kevin was sweeping the front steps, Mrs. Gable approached him. She wasn't carrying groceries this time, but a small bouquet of wildflowers. "Kevin," she began, a slight blush on her cheeks, "there's a lovely little cafe just down the street. They have the best tea. I was wondering, would you like to join me for a cup this Saturday?" Kevin's heart did a little flutter. A date. He hadn't been on a real date in years, not since before Lily was born. He felt a mix of surprise and a warm, hopeful feeling. He thought about his worn jeans and work shirts, then looked at Mrs. Gable's kind, smiling face. "I'd like that very much, Mrs. Gable," he said, a genuine smile spreading across his face. Saturday arrived and Kevin felt a little nervous, like a teenager. He carefully ironed his best shirt, a light blue one that Lily said made his eyes sparkle. Lily was staying with her grandma for the afternoon, giving Kevin time for this special outing. He met Mrs. Gable at the cafe. She was wearing a pretty floral dress and looked even lovelier than usual. The cafe was cozy, filled with the smell of coffee and pastries. They sat at a small table by the window, and for the first time, Kevin didn't feel like the custodian. He felt like Kevin, a man enjoying a nice afternoon with a kind woman. They talked easily, just like their conversations in the hallway, but with a new, gentle excitement. They laughed about silly things, shared more stories about their past, and found even more things they had in common. Kevin felt a lightness he hadn't known in a long time. This wasn't just a friendly chat, it was something new and wonderful, a step into a future he hadn't dared to dream of. As their date continued, Kevin found himself talking about Lily, his hopes for her, and even the small dreams he had for himself, dreams he rarely shared with anyone. Mrs. Gable listened, not just politely, but with genuine interest in her eyes. She asked thoughtful questions, making him feel like his words truly mattered. "You're a wonderful father, Kevin," she said softly, stirring her tea. "The way you talk about Lily, it's clear she's your whole world. And the way you care for this building, even when others don't notice. It shows what a good heart you have." Her words were like a warm hug. For so long, Kevin had been used to being invisible, to his efforts going unnoticed. Residents saw his uniform, not the man inside it, but Mrs. Gable saw him. She saw his kindness, his hard work, his love for Lily, and the quiet strength he carried. She didn't just see the custodian, she saw Kevin asterisk. A wave of understanding washed over him. He realized that this feeling of lightness, this joy he felt, came from being truly seen. Mrs. Gable didn't overlook him. She appreciated him for all the parts that made him him. It was a feeling he hadn't known he was missing until now. It wasn't just about finding someone to share time with. It was about finding someone who valued him for exactly who he was. In that cozy cafe, with the gentle clinking of cups, Kevin felt a deep sense of peace and a hopeful flutter in his chest. He knew, with a certainty that settled deep in his heart, that he had found someone truly special. From that first special date at the cafe, Kevin and Mrs. Gable's connection only grew stronger. They started spending more time together, going for walks in the park, visiting the local library, and even having quiet dinners at each other's apartments. Lily quickly grew to love Mrs. Gable, who always had a kind word and a warm smile for her. Mrs. Gable would often read stories to Lily, her gentle voice filling Kevin's small apartment with a new kind of warmth. Kevin found himself looking forward to every moment he spent with Mrs. Gable. She brought a quiet joy into his life, a feeling of being understood and truly cared for. He no longer felt like just the custodian in the building or a single dad doing his best alone. With Mrs. Gable, he was Kevin, a man with dreams, a loving heart, and a place where he truly belonged. Their relationship blossomed like a beautiful flower. Mrs. Gable admired Kevin's dedication to Lily and his kind spirit. Kevin cherished Mrs. Gable's wisdom, her gentle humor, and her ability to make him feel seen. The once-overlooked custodian now walked with a lighter step, his smile more often reaching his eyes. Life still had its busy moments, and the building still needed cleaning. But now Kevin had someone to share his days with, someone who saw past the dust and the uniform to the good man beneath. He had found not just a companion, but a partner who brought a deep sense of belonging and happiness into his life, showing him that sometimes the most wonderful treasures are found in the most unexpected places.